Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Today, Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with Sarah Dodd. She is a coach, a speaker, an author, and a world traveler. She has been to 91 countries thus far, and it's truly amazing to hear her story because she was raised in an area where there was a lot of closed-mindedness, and she was told that she couldn't do the traveling. She couldn't travel throughout the world, and she did not allow that to stop her from accomplishing her dreams.
Guys, we set up this interview, and Sarah has a trip coming up to West Africa, one of the most dangerous parts of the world to travel to, and she got vaccinated. And last week, we tried to set up the interview, and she felt like sick. She was kind of coming in and out of consciousness during the call. We had to reschedule. To me, the thing that jumps off the page is that Sarah is full of tenacity. She refuses to quit. This is going to inspire the hell out of you. My favorite thing that she said is turn off the news and step into reality. She said that the world is trying to tell you that everything's fearful in the world. And she's traveled the world, and she's living, breathing proof that you can do anything you set your mind to.
Yes, we were super motivated. You will be as well, and we hope you will enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. No. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good? Ready? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We have a very special guest today. She is a speaker, a coach, a writer, and a world traveler who has made it to 91 countries thus far. She has a better Instagram handle than both Alan and I combined at One Nomadic Dreamer, and she is talking to us from Spain today, the one and only Sarah Dodd. Sarah, how are you?
I'm doing so well today. Thank you guys so much for having me.
We appreciate you sitting down and taking the time out of your busy schedule and, going hyperconscious with us. That means a lot to us.
Well, I'm really excited to be here. It's going to be a really good hour.
All right. So I guess let's jump into your story. So at 23 years of age, you were a nurse. How did you go from being a nurse in the United States to traveling to 91 countries and now living in Spain?
Well, I just decided that I wanted to make a change to my life and I wanted to do something different. Everyone always told me growing up what I should be doing in my life. I should go to high school and then graduate from high school and then go to college and then find a husband, and then get a job and then, all of this stuff. And so I just decided, you know what, I want to do something different with my life. And so I bought a one-way ticket to Spain, and I said I was only going to stay for just a couple of months. And here I am almost 6 years later.
My goodness. That must have been a tough thing for you, just from the aspect of fearing the unknown. You know what I mean? Like moving all the way across the world to a place where you don't know anybody, having a one-way ticket. Like, how did you navigate the fears associated with that?
Well, first, it's necessary to point out that I had never traveled in my life before going to Spain. I'd never been to any other countries. All of my friends had traveled all over the world and done things at least with their parents. And I had never, ever, ever done that. And so really, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to face my fears. I'm going to just take action, and I just had to just get over it and go into all these unknowns. That was really hard for me because, especially because my family and no one had ever traveled. So there were so many doubts that came my way. People always told me, like, this isn't a good idea. You can't do this. I mean, this is too unknown. And, the movie Taken was very popular at that time. So they always told me, you're going to get taken just like on the movie. You just wait. They're just looking for pretty young girls like you. And so I just said, you know what? I just got to go and I got to take this chance because I didn't want to get 10 years down the road and live with fear. I mean, live with fear and regret. That's what I said. Didn't want to live with regret. That's what I'm looking for.
So it's interesting because a lot of people wouldn't even consider that sort of an option. In the preamble a little bit, you talked about how you actually dream in Spanish because that's kind of your main language now, but you mentioned dreaming. So it was always sort of a dream for you to travel? Or when did that kind of come up for you?
My dream really started whenever I was on my lunch break in my about 6 months into nursing, and I found an article that says why you should travel young. And I said, whoa, dun, dun, dun. This is a very, very dangerous idea. And that is whenever I first, that seed was planted in my mind for adventure. And I remember leaving that break room and saying, I don't know where on earth I'm going to go. It could be Africa. I could live in a hut in Africa. I don't know where that is going to be, but I'm going to leave in 6 months and I'm out of here. I'm going to go on a one-way ticket to some destination and I'm just going to see what happens. And that is exactly what I did.
The amount of courage that takes is honestly unbelievable. And at this point, you've traveled to 91 countries, and it's like, to us, we're just saying that as a number, but the amount of experiences, the people you've met, the places you've been, it's truly remarkable. I mean, that's crazy.
91 countries, and I'm getting ready to leave for West Africa, which is one of the most dangerous zones in the whole entire world to travel. I fly on Tuesday to Mauritania, then to Senegal, the Gambia, and then Guinea. And so I'm going to be flying to Mauritania and doing it all over land, which is almost ridiculous. And I know I'm taking the safety measures, but this is one of my most dangerous journeys yet. And I'm really, really excited about it. I mean, I travel completely alone, though. That's the thing. I completely go alone. I don't have this big old strong boyfriend or some strong guy like you guys. I don't have anyone to protect me. I am my own protection. And so that is another thing that makes the journey a little bit more scary. It's just me being out there on my own with only myself to depend on.
So when you're realizing, I'm sure in your research, obviously you know where you're going is very dangerous. Number one, how do you come up with the places that you go and the order that you go? And how do you get over the fear associated with knowing that where you're going is one of the most dangerous places in the world?
Well, I just make up a route and I just say, okay, I'm going to go here and there and here. And then there's different groups on Facebook that you can find a lot of support of people that have traveled that. And so I find a lot of support. And then basically I just connect through these groups on Facebook. I find people that are traveling there, people that have friends there or relatives. And then I just connect along the way. And when I get to Mauritania, for example, which is the poorest country in Africa, I got contacted by Instagram by someone, and I'm staying with the senators, with the family of the senator, because this guy contacted me through Instagram and said, hey, my dad is the senator of Mauritania. Would you like to stay there? And then he sent me the information of his sisters. And then in the end, I have all of these friends in Mauritania that I have never met in my life. So basically, I just do that. I connect with nonprofit organizations as well, different schools or different cool projects throughout Africa. And I say, okay, I'm going to this place. And I try to connect with them. And then I see if they know someone. And if they know someone, they connect me with them. And it's just kind of like the domino effect. You just kind of go, and then one door opens, and then the next and the next and the next, and all of a sudden, I haven't even traveled to these places, and I feel like I know so many people in West Africa.
It's truly unbelievable because honestly, if I look at my own personal growth, I think that, so I've traveled to Mexico and I've traveled to Canada, but I have not been off the continent. And I think that one of the greatest bottlenecks to my personal growth is not being more global. how do you think outside the box when you sort of live in one? And so one of the questions that I set the intention to ask you is, what would you tell someone who maybe isn't nearly as well traveled? Because I honestly think that one of the most important skill sets you can develop as a human being is getting along with others, building connections with others, networking. So for you, you've met so many people from so many different cultures. What can you bring to the listeners and to me that might help us connect more with people?
I think it's really important to know that people think that this world is this one big, dangerous place, and that people are out to get them. I mean, people live through the news and they're afraid. So I think it's really important for people to know that there are more people out there that are willing to help you than hurt you. And I meet these people every single day. I have stayed with over 250 different families on Couchsurfing, which is a service on the internet that allows you to connect with local people and have a local experience across the whole entire world. There are millions of people on this website, and I have had the opportunity to stay with over 250 families. If you really think about it, that's a lot of strangers. That's a lot of families. But I was one of those people that thought that this world is this big, dangerous place and everyone was out to get me. And then I started couchsurfing. And when I first heard of couchsurfing, I said, sleeping on someone's couch, someone I don't even know, never. I would never, ever do that. That's for crazy people. And here I am, 250 people later, and I have completely changed my mindset. So that's what I want people to know is the world is so much better than what people think that it is. Yes, there's war, there's lots of killings and kidnappings and bad things out there. But that is only a small percentage of the world. Really, when you look at human nature, we're awesome people. And there are so many amazing, loving and caring people out there. And through my experience with couchsurfing and travel, I have learned this because I live in the reality. So many people don't live in the reality because they're just seeing it through the TV. But when you step out and you travel and you take that step of faith, you start living in more of the reality.
Sarah, I think, number one, that is amazing. I'm getting perspective from you explaining it, and I can't even imagine 91 countries worth of perspective. But for the listeners right now, they might be thinking, okay, this young lady is unbelievably confident. You're very beautiful. You speak well. You traveled all around the world. And I read that you had times where, you were self-conscious. You had a bumpy road when it came to a healthy self-image. Can you take us through how you became more self-confident in yourself and like your appearance and being on social media?
I honestly just got more confident just taking action. I was so afraid to get on the camera. I was so afraid to do anything that required the camera getting up close to my face. And, I just started taking care of my health. I lost over 20 pounds and I started it was 40 pounds, 20 kilos. 40 pounds. Wow. And then I just started really caring about my health and what I ate, because we are what we eat. And then I just started saying, you know what? I am beautiful. I am strong. I am courageous. And I started doing these kind of talks in front of the mirror. But this is not something that happens overnight. My journey to self-confidence is something that has taken a long time. I mean, when I was young, I was really self-conscious. And then it's just really about training your mind and training yourself to love yourself. It's a training that you have to do each and every day. There are days where I say, oh man, I don't think I look so good. And then I wake up and then I'm like, you know what? This is nonsense. This is just that little dumb voice telling you, trying to talk you down. And then you have to look at yourself in the mirror every single day and just say, you know what? I am really awesome. I am strong. And man, I just love every curve of my body. I love who I am. I love every single zit that pops up on my face. I am so awesome. And this is what I've done over and over and over. And I feel like going towards my dream has really helped, because every time I go out and I just achieve a goal, I feel so much stronger. And that also helps with my confidence.
So I was thinking, as I was doing my research for you, that a lot of people have trouble when it comes to discipline and morning rituals and diet and exercise. How do you stay so healthy when number one, you don't always necessarily know where you're going to eat or what you're going to eat? And then how do you stay fit, and how do you, have like a morning routine that you do every day? Like, how do you stay disciplined with so much uncertainty?
Well, there are days I go in and out of it. Some days I'm so disciplined, and some days it's really hard. But I do intermittent fasting a lot. So I usually fast on average for about 16 hours a day, and then I eat in an 8-hour window. And I try not to eat a lot of sugar during the week. Okay, last week, for example, I didn't eat any sugar. This week, okay, I've been eating a little bit more. So just like setting goals, I get bored with doing the same thing over and over each and every week. So I just try to change it up. Like this week I'm eating some sugar, but next week I may not eat any sugar. And then this week I'm not fasting, but next week and the week after I may be fasting. So it's just changing it up a little bit and having fun with it. Like I don't want to say I'm not going to eat sugar for the rest of my life, or I'm not going to eat any bread for the rest of my life. I think people are so hard on themselves with these goals, and they just like cut out everything, and then they get burnt out so quickly. And I think there's just about discipline. And also, like, there are days where I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm so good, and I'll do this for a week, but then maybe the next week I say, okay, I'm gonna maybe sleep a little bit later, and I'm just gonna be not so hard on myself about everything, and just realizing that I personally cannot reach perfection. I try to be a perfectionist in everything, in my schedule, in my eating, and my exercise, and my morning ritual, and everything. I realize I just can't be perfect, but I really try to write as much as I can down about what I'm achieving each and every day, because I don't know about you, but like sometimes I will do so much in one day, and I'll get at the end of the day and be like, I didn't do anything.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to write this down and be like, okay, no, I just wrote 3 articles. I uploaded 3 videos. I put the things on Instagram. I did all the posts. I did everything. And then I went and exercised. I intermittent fasted. I mean, you have to say, oh my gosh, like you have to write this stuff down and be like, wow, I'm really good. Like I do so much more than the average person. And it's just realizing how much you do and just saying, you know what, I'm awesome, and giving yourself a pat on the back. That's what I try to do with myself, at least.
So it's so funny that you just mentioned that. I just started a new journaling practice where my old journaling practice, I would ask myself 4 questions. I'd say, what did I learn today? What am I going to do differently? What am I most grateful for about today? And then what are my focuses for tomorrow? But I just started switching it to start with the wins. So for the listeners out there, listen to what Sarah just said. Like a lot of times you'll go through a day and it'll get ahead of you, you'll lose track of time, and then you'll feel at the end of the day like you got nothing done. But if you start a journaling practice where you start with the wins, I did this the other night and I was blown away by how much I got done, even though it felt like an unproductive day. And I realized that it was actually incredibly productive. It made me feel so damn good. And then I went to bed, slept like a baby, and then woke up energized. So I really highly recommend starting your, evening journaling practice, if you have one, with like the wins from the day.
But even if we don't get a lot of things done, I think we just have to listen to our body. If we don't get a lot of things done and we're sluggish, maybe it's because we need a rest, or maybe it's because we need to go out and have some freaking fun. We're so hard on ourselves. We're always like, I got to do this, and I got to do 5,000 push-ups this morning, and I got to go run 30 kilometers, and I got to go write 15 pages in this to be done with my 5th book, and I got to go. This is how I am, at least. I'm
right.
like freaking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, book. I need to be finished with my book because I need to move on to the next book. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I have a freaking book that I've written. Like,
right.
Who writes a book before they're 30 years old? So I'm like, you know what? I need to be so much just easier on myself and realize, like, okay, you're doing a great job. And those days where I'm just feeling sluggish, like last week, I was feeling really bad. And I just had to listen to my body. I pushed myself too hard last week, and I just completely fell apart. And I said, you know what? Okay, I got to take some rest, and I got to go have some fun. And so I went out and I just had fun, and I spent some time with my friends, and I just got my head together again. And sometimes that's all we need to do is just forget about all the work and duties and to-do lists and just go have some fun.
I need that advice more than anybody, Sarah. Trust me. Kevin says I'm a robot sometimes.
He is a robot.
So one of the things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned earlier was the fact that the news scares people. So I don't watch cable. I haven't had cable. Growing up, I had basic cable or no cable at all just because we grew up fairly poor. But I remember whenever I see the news, because I almost never watch it, I get kind of blown away. And so there's this analogy that I heard one time where it's like if you're on the freeway and there's an accident on the side of the road, everybody stops and there's a lot of traffic. If there's this beautiful sunset, though, everybody just keeps speeding by. And the reason why is because our brain is always looking for things that can hurt us. And so if it bleeds, it leads. That's like a saying in the news. In other words, the news is not designed to inform us. It's designed to startle us because that's what gets our attention. So what you mentioned earlier is that everyone lives in this sort of, the mass media, social media, all that kind of stuff is kind of perpetually throwing in front of us the most startling, most outrageous things, and that the world is actually not nearly... We did an episode recently on perception versus reality. The perception is that everything's scary. But the reality, like you said, is that that's actually a very small percentage of the world. What can you bring to the listeners for people that maybe are in that echo chamber of fear to get them to step outside their comfort zone and maybe do some more travel?
Turn off the news. That's what I say. Turn off the news and just step into reality. I mean, people always tell me in my travels that bad things are going to happen, but I also believe in the law of attraction. Like, if you're constantly saying, oh, this bad things are out there, oh, the world's a terrible place, so it's full of bad people, full of bad experience, you're probably going to attract bad people, bad situations, bad luck, bad everything into your life. I'm not going to say that if you're thinking positively all the time that great things are always going to happen. Like, I've had guns put to my head, I've been robbed, I've had all kinds of bad things happen in my life. But that's just like a small percentage because we have to put ourselves in reality here. Like, I have traveled across 100 countries almost. I've had amazing experiences. But out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of experiences that I've had, if I've only had like a few bad negative experiences, like, it's okay. I'm a girl traveling alone, and the mistakes that I've made, like getting robbed with a gun to my head, that was my own stupidity. I'm not going to blame the world of how bad it is whenever I'm walking across one of the most dangerous countries in the world with the highest crime rate, talking on an iPhone 7 at 7:00 at night with my mom. Like, you also got to realize that there are risks. Like, these girls are always saying, the world is such a bad, dangerous place, and bad things are happening to me when I travel, and oh my gosh, the guys are always after me. Okay, you're going to a conservative country wearing a miniskirt. Okay, you're going to provoke very bad things. So you got to go out into the world with a little bit of knowledge and to realize you've got to take care of your own actions if you want to prevent problems from coming your way. You can't prevent problems completely, but you can do a lot of things within your own control to just reduce your chances that something are going to happen, like not walking through the streets with a mini skirt or not walking through the street with a nice watch or a purse or a cell phone or any kind of electronics like that.
I love how you take ownership of that, and you're making sure that you're doing everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. So I think that's huge. When I was researching you, one of the things that resonated most highly with me was that you had a rough childhood and you've turned that childhood into something truly amazing, and you coach and mentor children. That's one of your passions. So Alan and I both had interesting childhoods growing up. I really think that's why we're the men that we are today. That's why we want to help others, because we don't want them to have to feel the pain that we felt. Can we dig into your childhood a little bit, just so the listeners have a little context, of who you really are and the things that you've been through other than just the traveling?
Yeah, completely. I grew up with a family, that didn't have a lot of money. My mom, dad, and brother. And, my life really was good until I was around 5 or 6 years old. But then whenever I was 7 years old, we got a knock on the door from the police, and they told us that, that my dad was caught and they took him away. And all I knew at that young age is that he wasn't going to come back for a long time. So basically he got put in prison. He was pretty big into methamphetamine. He was selling and cooking meth and lots of money coming in and out. In the end, he got punished. He got put in jail for 19 years, I believe. But since my father is a really awesome person, he got out for good behavior only after 6 years. But his punishment was pretty bad, and this completely destroyed our life. I mean, my father was our role model. My brother looked up to him. I did too, but it's a guy thing. I mean, my brother and my dad had a really strong connection. And it was really, really hard on our family. My mom dropped out of school when she was 14 years old. She didn't have any kind of education. My parents got married whenever they were 16 years old. And, my mom was just left there with 2 kids to feed, no money, no college degree or anything. She ended up going back to college, doing something with her life. And, there were still obstacles. Just a couple of years after, our house burnt completely to the ground. We lost absolutely everything. And, that really taught us a lot of lessons on just the importance of not basing our life on the material possessions that we have. And, from that point, I had a lot of obstacles. I was very insecure. I was always looking for my place in life when I was young. My mom fell into like a very deep depression from my dad, and she ended up getting with my stepdad, which they're still together now. But we had a rocky relationship at times. And so life wasn't perfect. But, whenever I was 14 years old, I just said, you know what? I'm going to do something different with my life. And that's whenever I feel like my life really began to change, was when I was 14 years old.
So when you said that I'm going to do something different with my life, you're 14 years old. Is there something in particular that catalyzed that moment of like, I cannot continue living life this hectically? Like, I want something different for my life than maybe some of my environment has taught me or shown me?
I felt like my life was one big drama. And so whenever I was 14 years old, someone approached me. Someone actually was from my church at the time. I mean, I was really big into church because that was the place where I hung out because, I didn't really want to be at home too much. And so that's the best. I'm really happy for the church for that reason because, it was a safe place for me to go and be around positive people. And, I was looked in the eye and told by the pastor, my youth pastor at that time, he said, Sarah, you have the opportunity to create your future. Despite what you have lived, despite what your family is like, you have the opportunity to go out and create the life that you have always wanted. And that's the first time I ever realized that the decision was mine, that the ball was in my court, that I didn't just have to wait to see what happened. The decision was mine, and I could go out and create the type of life that I wanted. You have to keep in mind that almost all the men in my family are alcoholics, and a lot of them are into drugs. Now my first cousins are in prison. They're drug addicts. Things like that. So you just got to think I thought this was just in my genes. I thought that there was no control that I had on this. And so when someone told me that I had the opportunity to go change my life, it makes me want to just tear up right now, just thinking about it, because it's wow, it's so amazing for anyone to hear that. It's we have the opportunity. There's no excuses. It doesn't matter the family you come from. It doesn't matter if you come from a poor background or if you have drug addicts or if you have abuse or anything. You don't have to be a victim to that your whole entire life. That was a really important moment in my life.
Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you are enjoying this episode featuring Sarah Dodd. Friendly reminder, if you go to thehyperconsciouspodcast.com and go to the top of the page, there is a link that says join our mailing list. If you do so, we will send you 3 hyperconscious morning minutes a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, straight to your inbox.
Folks, here's the truth. The only way your life will improve is if you improve first. Kickstarting your day with us in your ear, motivating you, will help you have a productive day. There's 365 days in a year. Imagine if every one of those days you made count.
Sarah's waiting. You think we should get back into it?
I do.
All right. Enjoy.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Can I ask you if you were... So I have this kind of philosophy that when we're in emotional pain, we can either escape into a vice or develop a virtue. I would argue that you were in some emotional pain when that person came to you, and then you decided to develop your virtues and to really chase your own sort of path, your own dreams. Is that true? Were you in some emotional turmoil at that time? Okay.
I would feel like I was in emotional turmoil. I mean, I was only 14 years old, but I mean, 14 years old, you can experience a lot of emotional turmoil. I mean, life was really, I was confused. I had no idea which directions. And you have to think I was 14 years old with a lot of dreams and a lot of goals and a lot of things that I wanted to do, but feeling like I had no control over my life. And so it was really neat to have that person come into my life. They mentored me. They're still my mentor until this day.
Oh, I'm so
And so
glad you
it's
just
so
said that.
amazing. I mean, we don't talk every single day like we used to, but they're still like the couple that mentored me. They're some of the most important people in my life. And, you know, it was cool because I walked through so many important parts of my life with them. I got involved in sports. They helped me just to figure out like that I wanted to go out and make something in my life and go to college. And then in college, they helped me just to figure out what I wanted to do and to dream big for my life. And I mean, I decided to graduate from high school 1 year early. And there was no one that had done that at that point. And no one even knew that you could do that. I graduated 1 year early. And then when I was 15 years old, I decided that I didn't want to go to school in Arkansas, that I wanted to go far away. So when I was 16 years old, I moved out of my home. And then at 17 years old, I packed up every single thing that I owned in my little red Grand Am, went all the way across the United States to Florida and went to college. I had no money. I had parents that told me that they were not going to pay for anything if I went out of the state. I had no idea what I was doing. I got into some financial problems at that time. Luckily, they're solved now. But I was willing to do anything, even if that was putting myself into financial damage, to get out of there and to start living a new type of quality life, just something different than just the life that I was living back in Arkansas with people that were a little bit more close-minded, I guess to say.
Sarah, so you just said you graduated a year early in high school. I also read that you got a 2-year degree in 1 year from the University of Arkansas online and also traveled to 20 countries that year and had a perfect 4.0 GPA?
There's no excuses in the thing. So I'm a nurse, first of all. But after I got done working as a nurse, I moved to Spain. And then after I started traveling and doing all this stuff, I decided that I wanted to travel full time. And so whenever I was traveling full time, I said, wow, well, there's a lot of things coming up with public speaking. And I was getting invited to speak at schools and colleges and all kinds of things. And so I'm American, just like you guys are. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, if I'm going to be speaking, I need a degree in this. I have to have another degree.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm always like all about these degrees. So
Right.
I said, okay, well, I'm traveling the world. I don't want to stop this. So I called the University of Arkansas and I told them what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to do this communication degree and I'm going to do it while traveling. And they're like, you can't do that. Like, that's impossible. Like, you can't do all of these classes. They're like, it's so hard for someone on campus to do this, much less someone that's going to be traveling full time. I said, I don't care. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to do it. So I signed up for a 2 years, and I finished it in 1 year while traveling to 20 countries, while working full time into my blogging thing, and then getting invited to speak at the largest TEDx conference in Spain in Spanish, a language that I didn't know 2 years before that moment. And so there I was in Asia, traveling through all of these Asian countries and Indonesia and India, Sri Lanka, Singapore, all of these countries that were so crazy and so much different than my country because I never traveled to these countries and I was in over my head with all of this stuff. But I said, I don't care. I just have to just continue on with what I'm doing. And that's what I did. I ended up graduating with a 4.0 while traveling to all of these countries. I did my TED Talk and I did a really great TED Talk, I believe. In Spanish, I think I did a great job. I mean, as far as if you look on YouTube, I think I look at it now. I mean, I just watched it for the first time only in the last year because I was so afraid to watch it. And I looked at it and I'm like, I am so proud of myself. It's like one of those moments you just got to pat yourself on the back and sometimes praise yourself for the things that you do and not just be so hard on yourself. Like I told you, I always am. But that's what I did. And I got the degree. And to this point, I don't really use it, but I'm happy that I did it. And it was just one of these things to overcome a goal, overcome this fear as well of not being able to do it, you know, that fear of failure. It was kind of a year of saying to myself, I'm going to do all of this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove to myself and to others that there is no excuse. Time is not an excuse. People said, I can't travel the world because I don't have time. I'm like, watch me. And people watch me through Instagram do all of these things. I didn't post as much at the time, but I did, you know, talk to some people about it. I put some stories out there, but I wanted people to see, not through my words that they could do it, but through my actions.
So, Sarah, a couple things. One, I found your TED Talk and I tried to watch it and I was like, this is going to be great. And then you started talking and I was like, I don't know any of this. So, but I bet you it was very good. I believe you in that.
We have to learn Spanish.
Yeah, we have to learn Spanish. We'll have to learn from you.
Podemos hablar en español si quieres.
Wow.
Right.
Así.
Así. This is a good answer. Así.
For you, so again, for the listeners that might think you're fearless or you're the most confident person ever of all time, how did you get into the actual action of getting the TED Talk? Like, how did you practice speaking? How did you gain the confidence enough to step on stage at the biggest one in Spain and crush it?
When your biggest fear was public speaking. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. I mean,
I remember you saying
what
that
you just
on an
said.
interview.
When the biggest fear is public speaking,
Right.
It's so right. I think it's really important that you just mentioned that. Was my biggest fear. And really, I just say that the answer is just going out and doing it. I practice in front of the mirror every single day, but I was terrified. I mean, I was terrified. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. But, you know, when I got that call, I put a lot of things out on social media. I sent a lot of emails just to people in general. I finally got contacted for this TED engagement. And I said, I don't know. And I went through a couple of weeks where I was like, I don't think I'm going to say yes. And you know, there's excuses. I'm like, I'm full-time into college right now. I'm traveling full-time. I'm in Asia. I don't know Spanish. I mean, I could not speak in Spanish at that point. I mean, I could speak just very little. And so, you know, I had all of these excuses in the world and I was petrified. But then something every single day in my mind told me, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. You have to do it. No, I said no voice. Like all that voice in my head. I'm like, I said no every day. Yes, you're going to do it. I ended up saying, okay, let's do it. Let's face this fear. And that's what I did. I practiced every single day for a couple of months. I got on stage, you know, with other people. I got in front of my family. I got in front of my friends. I found people I didn't know, and I just practiced. And I spoke words of truth every single day out loud. And I said, you can do it. You are strong. You are courageous. And what is the worst thing that is going to happen? I had to ask myself that. My biggest fear was going blank in front of everyone, obviously. And then I asked myself, like, what would be the worst thing that would happen if I went blank? Okay, people would sit there and they would be like, what is going on? But then I have to think, like, I'm American. I'm going to be getting on a Spanish stage speaking in Spanish. Like, if I go a little blank, no big deal. But it's also one of those things, the law of attraction. You can't just sit there and think, what if I go blank? I'm going to go blank. I'm going to go blank.
Right.
No, you have to just say, you know what? I am full of words. I am a person that is fluent in the language. I speak very nicely, and people receive all of the words that I say just so gently and kindly and lovingly. And I said this out loud each and every day. And I was so terrified. I didn't sleep at all the night before my speech. I can remember my heart beating out of my chest, getting on this TED stage with all of the bright lights out there and looking at everyone and feeling like a deer in front of headlights, taking that deep breath in and saying, this is it. There is no turning back. And I didn't go and blink. And I did, I believe, a great job for especially knowing that I didn't speak Spanish before that moment. People were very happy and impressed with it. So the feedback afterward gave me a lot of courage to continue on to bigger and better things. I went on to another speech after that with a couple of thousands of people. This one only had 1,000. And then I went to the next month with one with 2,000, and then I did 3,000. And then I said, okay, this is all in Spanish. So, I feel a little bit more confident, but I'm still terrified of public speaking.
I'm so glad you just ended with that. So I often say a quote, big things start small. At one point, Amazon only sold books. The reason I say that is because, before every podcast, even Kevin said right before this podcast, he's like, I'm a little nervous, man. I'm like, yeah, me too. I think.
Did you guys say that really?
Yeah.
Sarah, I'm nervous before because I don't want to blank. I don't want to, you know what I mean? But the like Alan said, he said, that's good. You should be. I think being nervous and being a little bit afraid means you're alive.
It means you're outside your comfort zone.
I love this so much because I have done radio for the last 3 years. I've had 2 radio programs, one in Spain, one in America, and I still do the one in America. I have been on hundreds of media outlets, on different radio programs, TV shows. I've done reality TV shows. I've done it all. And I'm thinking, why in the world is my heart beating so fast before this podcast with these cute boys? I don't know what's going on.
Thank you for that, by the way.
We also needed that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, right.
But no, it is true. When your heart's not beating so fast and you're not nervous, I think there's something wrong. I think this is a good signal that we are on the right path and that we really care about what we're doing. Because if we weren't nervous at all, it's just kind of like a passive, oh, I don't care what happens. But we really care about what we do, and we really care about inspiring our listeners. So we want to give them the best content possible so we don't waste their time.
Sarah, I'm so glad you said that. I just posted on my Instagram this morning that basically if you're not at least a little bit nervous mixed with a little bit of excitement, then you're not outside your comfort zone. And I think life is about growth. I mean, you've grown so much over the years. It's very, very clear to me that you always step into these moments that make you nervous and you use courage and then overcome them. And I always say it's you don't know you love something because you always want to do it, but you know you love it because you're always glad you did. And so what I wanted to bring to the listeners is a couple things. One, first and foremost, your tenacity. You insist on following through. And for the listeners, we tried to do this call last week, and you had your vaccinations for your trip to West Africa. And what I wanted to bring was the truth, which is we tried to do this, all 3 of us, and then you weren't feeling well, and we had to cancel it. And you still stepped up a week later, and then the audio equipment was messing up.
That was our bad.
Yeah, it took us 3 times to do the intro, folks. And what I want people to realize is that you're hearing the polished product, but the tenacity and the courage that it took to get this polished product into your ears right now is so much more than meets the eye. And you can do it too if you start stepping into those moments of courage to do the things you really want. And I think Sarah is such a testament to that.
Well, I have to admit, I got 3 vaccinations last week because of West Africa. But apart from that, you guys, I'm going to admit, I had no idea what was going on with me last week. Whenever we were getting ready to do this podcast, my heart started beating out of my chest. I started getting hot flashes and I started feeling dizzy. And I don't know, I blame it on the vaccinations, but I was so nervous about it. And like I said, okay, if this were my first interview, then I would say, okay, it's normal to be nervous. But after over 100, you feel like I don't get nervous when I do it in Spanish. But since I'm thinking and I am talking all the days in Spanish, I'm like, okay, like, it makes me a little nervous to go in English and start speaking. But, now when you start talking and we're, getting into the podcast, I'm not nervous anymore. But, that's just what you have to do is you just have to go out and face your fear, and you're not going to do it right the first time always. Like when I do these videos and I record, people see like my end result, like we mentioned, but sometimes I have to record these photos and record these videos 50 times just to get what I'm getting. And like people get on my Instagram and they're like, oh my gosh, your photos are so beautiful. Everything is so beautiful. You're such a perfectionist with your stuff. How do you do this? And I'm like, do you guys understand like how much work it takes just to get one quality picture? People just assume that I just snap the camera and that's it. And I put it on the internet. Like people don't understand that I have to literally like climb up walls and lay on the ground, lay out in the middle of the highway and like do all these weird things with my my self timer and my tripod just to get this one picture. And everyone just sees this beautiful picture in the end, but they don't see all of the heartache that I've had to put into getting this one picture. Or when I do these speaking engagements, like, okay, people say, oh, Sarah, you're such an elegant speaker with your TED Talk and with your other things. Like, oh, I wish I were a natural speaker like you. And I'm like, a natural speaker? I'm not like, okay, maybe I'm a good speaker. But do you understand that I spent over 100 hours in front of the mirror every single day preparing just for this one moment.
That's the part that people don't see. I'm so glad that's why Kevin and I are so passionate about what we do. We call it pulling back the curtain on the truth. Like we want to see not just the polished product, because that's what marketing is. It's showing the end result. One of our close friends recently just did her first photo shoot, and I told her I'm so proud of her because I'm 25 shoots in, and still every single time that feedback is hard. You think you're in better shape than you are. Trust me, as a fitness model, every single time it's like, really, Alan. But anyways, it's. I always say that your new worst will be better than your old best because you're gonna get better the more you practice. And I'm just so glad that you were willing to go deep on the things behind the scenes that people don't get to see. Because remember, the whole world is just showing you the polished end result, not the process necessarily. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the one thing is that most people, they want to do really well, but then the moment that things start to feel uncomfortable, they stop. When they're dieting, the moment they start feeling uncomfortable, they stop. Whenever it's a little uncomfortable because they're a little bit hungrier than the normal because they're not eating as much, they stop. Or whenever they're running and it's a little hard, they just stop. And people stop in the middle and they don't continue on because it's painful. And I just say, continue going forward, regardless of the pain and the discomfort. For me, it's more discomfort than anything. I feel so uncomfortable, but each and every time that I'm outside of my comfort zone, I grow so much. And you just do this over time and time again. And eventually you are created into this beautiful person that is just so strong and can handle so much. Because I used to be a little bit more weak when I started. And I gave up a lot whenever I first started with things, with the little things especially, not so much the big things. But now I see that I'm following through so much more. And I really allow myself to go through those moments of discomfort, because that's the most important thing, is just fighting through the discomfort.
That's what we say to the listeners. That's what we say to people who message us. It's like, maybe this looks easy to you, and maybe you don't think you could ever podcast, but maybe you don't want a podcast. At one point, I was terrified to talk by myself. At one point, I was terrified to interview Alan.
Yeah.
And then for episode 34, I remember before we interviewed Lori Harder, I wanted to jump out of the window. I didn't think I could do it.
That was hilarious.
I was terrified, but the longer you stay in the arena, the more comfortable you get, like you said. And I really appreciate how transparent you are about that and about social media, because just like the news, social media skews people's reality and their perspective on a lot of things. And I like how you're honest about it. Like, yeah, maybe it takes me 20 shots to get the right one. I think that's super big.
Yeah, and I'm not perfect at all. And I like to admit this because it makes it easier for me. It makes me feel a lot more relaxed when I automatically say, I am not perfect. And I don't try to be perfect. I think that's really, really important because many people write me and say, oh, Sarah, you're so perfect. You have the perfect life, the perfect everything. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. I'm not perfect. Maybe I make it look easy and perfect, but it's not like that. So I think that really helps me just to chill out a little bit because I'm not perfect and I love, love, love the opportunity to tell people and to admit that I am not perfect. I have so many faults. I mean, I have a lot of hangups out there. Like, I mean, I'm not exactly sometimes the most patient person, especially when it comes time to filming. And I do videos and I try to film as well for, by myself. When I'm with you guys, it's okay. But when I get in front of a camera and it's time to film and I'm being like recorded and I know that there's a timer going and I have to get like a good video within 2 minutes, I just am so perfectionist that it's just ridiculous. And I get so frustrated. I'm like, again, start again, start again, start again. And in the end, sometimes I just say, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I'll do it again tomorrow. And I think that's okay. It's just sometimes you just get so frustrated and you just have to stop. And sometimes the best answer is just going to sleep, taking a rest, and doing it again tomorrow and not just pushing yourself until you just break down and fall apart. Just give yourself a little rest and know that tomorrow, after a good night's sleep, it will probably be much easier.
Yes, and we needed to give ourselves a good night's sleep after the first hang up that we had. And now next week, or the following week, we ended up following through. And I love that you say, okay, step back for a moment, take some time, take some R&R, get your head right, but don't give up on it entirely. I think that's such a huge thing because you really do have to persevere toward the things you want most if you ever want them to come true.
Exactly. And every single opportunity of it's not failure, but every single opportunity like that we had last week is an opportunity to teach other people. It's an opportunity. There's lessons to be found in every single hang up. And so that's why I love my hang-ups now. Whenever I make a mistake out there, I get really, really excited. And I'm like, great, This is awesome. Like, what can I learn from this hang-up? What can I teach other people about this? So instead of just getting frustrated and upset about me not doing something good or not doing something right, I say, no, this is amazing because now I have something more to talk about of how I didn't do very well and what I had to learn through this experience. So there is always something to learn. And that's what I want people to hear out there is like, maybe you're stuck on something and maybe you're frustrated. Maybe you're not doing something right. Don't be so hard on yourself and just see that there is a lesson behind that. Maybe that lesson is just simply just take it more easy and just listen to your body or to go out and like I said earlier, go out and have fun or do something. Maybe your body is trying to teach you something if you're constantly just stalling on your words and you're just constantly frustrated. It's your body as well telling you something.
I love it, Sarah. So Alan and I each have a question we ask every guest, but before we ask, I just want to say that when our first call went astray, it didn't work the way we thought, I was trying to stay grateful. And one of the things that I kept saying to myself is, you already know this person now. Like, I felt like we really, really knew you. And I knew that this interview, because of that, would be better. So for the listeners, sometimes things don't go the way you expect them to go, but if you can remain grateful that you learned something because of it, like Sarah was just saying, I think that's an actual concrete example that I just wanted to share with you, Sarah, as well as the listeners.
Absolutely. Gratefulness is so, so, so important. And, I'm grateful for what happened last week. I'm grateful for all of these little tests and all of these little trials because, they really do teach you something. And so it makes me so grateful to be able to share this and to share my imperfections with the whole entire world.
Mistakes are proof that you're trying, and I'm trying really hard.
Exactly. And you know what I found is like, people really relate to me so much more as a human being
Right.
when they know that I'm not perfect. Because who wants to get on Instagram and just see someone that's constantly talking about their perfect life, their perfect travels, their perfect body, their perfect life, their perfect husband, their perfect job, their perfect little poodle. And I'm like, okay,
You just
I don't want to
described
hear
like a
about
bunch
your
of accounts I
perfect
know.
little life.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear about that. I want to see like what is going on really behind the scenes. Like, I don't want to just see the best version of people's life. Like, I want to see really what happens. And sometimes I've met a lot of these Instagrammers and a lot of these people, and they're awesome on the internet when you see them. And then you get in person with them and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Interesting. We have
Where's
had that
this
experience
awesome
as
little
well.
life?
Yes.
Exactly.
It is fascinating to me, the polish you put around the product and then meeting the product. And again, there's nothing against them. It's marketing. It is what it is. And they're not bad people. It's just be careful about perception versus reality. That's an unapologetic plug to a different episode we did, but like it's huge. Being self-deluded. Sarah, you seem very good at that. You don't seem self-deluded at all. Kevin's been hitting the watch here for a minute because we got to ask our last questions. Do you want to go first, brother?
I will go first. So, Sarah, you've traveled to 91 countries thus far. You have a next level education that you managed to get while traveling to other countries. What do you hope to accomplish in your life? Like, what is the big things you want to get done before you leave this earth behind?
Wow, there's so many things I want to do on this earth. And my first goal is I want to travel to all of the countries of the world. There are 196 official countries in the world, and I want to visit all of them. And I mean all of them. There are no limits. So that is one of my goals. My next one is I want to continue to write many books. I've already written one. It's with a publisher right now, and it's only in Spanish, unfortunately. I'll get it translated eventually. I've written 2 children's books that have not been published yet, and I've done some courses and I've done things like that. So my goal is to produce lots of content for my listeners and to continue to do that. Just write, inspire other people, get really involved in my public speaking, inspire people in both languages, in English and Spanish, travel the world and speak to thousands of people. And I'm getting really involved in the TV. I've had some really cool TV opportunities come up, and I've got a lot of my following through really, really cool national TV programs that have really portrayed me as a professional, not one of these like dumb people out there that are on these reality TV shows, but like as a person that's really out to inspire the world. And I've been able to maintain a sense of professionalism through being on TV. So continue to do this and inspire the world. That's what I'm here for. I'm in the business of inspiration.
Sarah, you're definitely doing that. There's a saying that I've started using in the gym, which is when you're in the gym with somebody, sometimes people's mouths are far greater than the reps that they've put in. You are the opposite of that. I feel like you are walking your talk so well. You've traveled the world. You're already 91 countries into, I think you said 196 was the ultimate goal. It's truly unbelievable to see how far you've come, from scuba diving, all the things I researched of you. We only had an hour here, but I just want to say that you are walking your talk, and I think that who you are speaks so loudly that your words are far more powerful. And I'm super impressed and inspired. So for my last question before we go, I wear a necklace or chain around my neck, depending on what you want to view it as. And it has the North Star on it. And the North Star is the brightest star in the sky. It's what I aspire to be. And I think that when we're in dark places, that's the bright light that we see. I believe that we grow and we evolve and we change. You've obviously grown, evolved, and changed through this travel, through all of your speaking, all of those different things, personal development. But my question for you is, I believe the deepest part of us never changes. What about you never changed?
What about me that has never changed? I would say something that has never changed in me is that fighter in me. I've always been a fighter. I've always been, really just fighting for my life, fighting to be everything that I possibly can. And that has never changed. I mean, I can remember being that young 14 years old girl that was just a dreamer, a fighter. And that is what I am, is the dreamer and the fighter. And that's why I got my name, Nomadic Dreamer, is because I can just remember that young girl that just was fighting for her dreams and saying, you know what, I'm going to go out and do something great with my life. So that's something that has never left me and that will never leave me for the rest of my life, is that determination, that fight, and that sense of just awe of the world, and just the ability to go out and just dream really, really big things.
Sorry, Sarah, I know that you have absolutely blown me away. I'm sure Alan feels the same way, and the listeners do as well. If the listeners want to find you, I know you do coaching. Where can they hire you for speaking? Plug everything that you have. Plug it away.
So my website where I have my coaching and all of my professional services is on Sarah with an H at the end, sarahedodd.com. But I am also on the nomadicdreamer.com. And then on social media, you can find me just simply typing in the Nomadic Dreamer in Facebook or on Instagram, One Nomadic Dreamer, or if you just put in Nomadic Dreamer, I am the only blonde girl that you will see coming up on Nomadic Dreamer.
For the listeners also, if you go to her website and you go to the About Me part, there's 40 things about me that you would never know or never guess. If you ever want to eliminate the excuses that are holding you back from you taking that next courageous step in your life, I'm telling you, go look at what Sarah has done with her life. It's truly remarkable. Scuba diving, 25 countries on $1,000 without ever only hitchhiking, right? So I think you did no like paid travel or something like that.
I did, yeah. I hitchhiked across 25 countries with over 200 different cars. I actually wrote them all down, and only staying with local families in their homes, all strangers. So yeah, I did that, and spending as little as possible, because it was when I was really young and I didn't have a lot of money, and I wanted to prove to other people that you could travel the world and not spend so much.
If you're out there and fear has you in a trap, like, she's going to inspire the hell out of you. She's done tremendous things. Also, I just want to say the answer you gave to my question, the tenacity inside you, the fact that you persevered and did this regardless of all the audio failures, the vaccination thing, the fact that you haven't spoken in English in a while and that you dream and think in Spanish and you came on here and killed it. Just, it means the world. Thank you so much for doing this. And
well, I'm so happy, and I'm so happy for this experience with you guys. And I also was going to say, I put a lot of things on my Instagram stories. So I put things of motivation, of travel, of how to travel cheap, or how to travel just more sustainable as well. A lot of really, really cool types of things. So you can check me out on the stories. If you're looking for inspiration, that is the best way to stay in touch with me on a daily basis.
Yeah, we can definitely vouch for that. When I saw your Instagram, I was blown away by, it's just, there's so many amazing pictures.
Right.
And it's like, some days I'm afraid to go to Dunkin' Donuts and talk to the person at the drive-thru, and you're out here hitchhiking across the world. So, yeah, this was amazing. I'm so very grateful that you took the time. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed listening as much as we clearly enjoyed recording. That was Sarah Dodd.
thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life, because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends, because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye.